Hey everybody, in this video I'm just going to test myself to see how long it takes me to carve a functional bow and drill friction fire set out of this piece of log. It's it's probably 15 inches long or so. Just a piece of solid oak is all it is, and I'm going to be using my belt knife. This happens to be the Striker Defender tool that I carry on my belt at all times. That's why I'm practicing with it. That's why I practice all my bow drill fires or any of my knife skills with this knife, is because this is the knife I always have on me. The only piece of kit that I'm going to not produce in this video is my bow stick. Because I know it only takes a minute to tie a string onto a bow, right? So no big deal. I'm not going to do a lot of editing in this video. I will speed up some of the longer portions, probably carving the spindle and stuff, but at the end I'll tell you how long it took me. So just a little fun thing to do on the Labor Day weekend. Here we go. That should work. It may look like I was getting a little bit close to my fingers with that knife, and I probably was, but I practice with my knife constantly, and I know exactly where that blade is hitting down. And exactly where my finger is. Now, oak generally takes a little bit more coaxing than a softer material. Generally you have to just go a little slower with it. You want to get it a little bit hotter. It's not going to produce dust as quickly as softer material is. So everything's going to take a little bit more time. I forgot to mention that I also use a multi-tool to carve the notch in my hearth board after the burn in. So I'm going to do that. I believe that it is incredibly important that you practice with the kit that you're going to have on your body, or at least in your toolbox. You know, your whatever kit you're going to have, that should be the kit that you practice with. So I've always got my saw on me. Just gonna trim that down a little bit so I don't have to saw through so much. If anybody's wondering, I use a Leatherman multi-tool. I've used Swiss Army knives. That was the very first multi-tool I ever owned, was a Swiss Army knife. There's my notch. See how you like that? My very first tool was a Swiss Army knife, and then I went to Leatherman's. I've owned a Gerber, did not like it. I guess I should have sharpened my knife before I started this. The reason why I decided to start practicing feather curls is because I spend a lot of time in the snow. A 1,000 miles away from home. And a lot of times when you're out in that kind of weather, all your dry material could be buried under the snow. See? So I never count on being able to just pick up a couple handfuls of dry pine needles or whatever. So I decided I'll start practicing feather curls, because even if everything is wet or snowed, you can always just baton down into that material and get to the dry stuff and then make your feather curls out of that. All right, let's make the fire. Now this is oak on oak. Oak spindle, oak hearthboard. And it generally takes a little bit more finesse because it doesn't like to take the heat so well, and it doesn't like to produce powder so well. So you really got to warm it up in order to get that dust producing and falling down into that notch. But it does produce a hot ember. I mean, it's a hardwood, so it's going to burn hotter. Okay, well, while that was fun, it did take me almost half an hour, 26 minutes, to carve that set and twist the ember. Now, I was using solid oak spindle and a solid oak hearthboard, and that's not ideal, both hardwoods, but if that's what I've got, that's what I've got. And it's nice to know that if I'm down to a bow and drill friction fire, I need at least half an hour. Now, you'll notice that I carved that set, the spindle and the hearth, out of the same small log. And I encourage everybody to practice that rather than just looking around on the ground or up in a tree for a relatively drill size twig or branch, because you can't always count on finding dry material on the ground or below the snow level. But we do all know that your driest material is going to be right in the center of larger stuff. So absolutely practice carving your set out of larger material. The hearth, the spindle, everything. Also, you may have noticed that my spindle isn't the most round and straight spindle that you've seen. For beginners, I would highly recommend practicing carving that spindle much smoother, much rounder, and much straighter than what I've done. I've done hundreds and hundreds of bow and drill fires, years and years and years. I started learning in the mid-90s to do bow and drill friction fire. And so my ability to overcome defective spindles like this, or a hearthboard that just goes flying off a log that I baton down, may be greater than the average beginner's ability. Absolutely practice your spindle like all the other experts tell you to do this, okay? And your hearthboard too. If they're telling you to do a 3/8 inch thick hearthboard and it's all flat on both sides and whatever they're saying, do that until you can get your skill and proficiency down to where you can take a knee and twist an ember the first time, every time, at will, just because you want to. And then later on, then you can stop worrying so much about taking, as much time to carve out a dowel for your drill. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a blast.